You know that feeling, right? That knot in your stomach, the kind of endless mental loops of what if, just feeling completely stuck when you're facing a big decision.
Oh, yeah, like you're just frozen at a crossroads. Career stuff, buying something major, even relationships. It can feel, well, totally overwhelming.
And that fear underneath it all,
Yeah.
choosing the wrong path.
Yeah.
The worry about regret, missing out on something better, or just making things harder for yourself.
It's incredibly common. I think it really does paralyze people, right, when they actually need to make a move.
Exactly. And that whole tangle, the stress, the fear, the indecision, that's precisely why we're doing this deep dive today. We've pulled together a bunch of sources, research, psychology insights, practical guides.
Personal takes, too.
Yeah.
All looking at how to handle this stuff.
Right. So our mission really is to cut through that noise. We're going to unpack these sources, pull out the key ideas, and hopefully give you a clearer picture of what's going on when you feel stuck.
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, give you some actual tools to move from that, decision dread towards feeling a bit more clear, maybe even finding some peace with it all, whether it's a huge life choice or something smaller.
Okay, let's dive in then. First up, understanding the enemy.
Yeah.
How does stress actually, physically and mentally, mess with our decision-making? The sources paint a pretty clear picture.
Yeah, think of stress as, well, this primal reaction. Your body senses a challenge, maybe even just the threat of a bad choice, and boom, cortisol, adrenaline.
Fight or flight stuff.
Exactly, which is great if you're, running from a tiger, but absolutely terrible for careful, nuanced thinking.
And this is where it gets really interesting in the brain. The research shows stress can basically hijack your prefrontal cortex.
Which is your command center, right?
Yeah.
For planning, reasoning, weighing options,
Yeah.
making decisions.
Yeah, it's like trying to run sophisticated software on a computer that's completely overloaded. It just glitches.
Sure. And it can get worse under chronic long-term stress. Some studies even suggest it can impact the hippocampus that's vital for memory.
So not only is your planning center kind of offline, but you might even struggle to pull up relevant past experiences or information you need to weigh things properly.
That seems to be the implication. And there's another twist one source mentioned. Stress can actually make you focus more on potential rewards and kind of ignore the risks.
Really, so you might make riskier choices.
That's the idea. The risky business part. In that heightened state, you might be drawn to the shiny potential upside without really calculating the downside or, the actual odds of it working out. It's not logical. It's stress pushing you towards a perceived quick win.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how can you tell if stress is sneakily undermining your decisions? The sources highlighted a few common signs, things you might recognize.
Yeah, like are you just putting the decision off again and again? That's procrastination, a classic sign.
Or getting lost in endless pros and cons, going round and round, but never actually choosing.
Analysis paralysis, totally. Or maybe just avoiding it, hoping it'll somehow just go away.
Avoidance.
Or the opposite, rushing into something, anything just to get the decision over with. That's impulsivity. All signs that stress might be driving the bus instead of clear thinking.
Okay, that definitely resonates. So if stress is the big obstacle, where do we even start trying to clear that path? One really powerful tool that kept coming up across the sources is mindfulness.
Right, and mindfulness isn't about emptying your head completely. It's more about training your focus, creating a bit of mental space.
So it helps counteract that immediate stress reaction.
Exactly. It creates the internal conditions for clearer thinking before you even tackle the decision itself.
One source laid out some simple steps for this, specifically for decision making. Step 1 was stop and unplug.
Yeah, and this is so crucial now, isn't it? You have to consciously pause, turn off the phone dings, step away from the screen. Just quiet the mental chatter and maybe the physical restlessness too.
Like deep breaths.
Yeah, even just focusing on your breath for a few moments can help settle you into the present, kind of turn down the volume on that fight or flight noise.
Okay. Step 2, define the question. And this had a really interesting angle. Maybe you're stuck because you're asking the wrong question.
Oh, absolutely. This is a big one. Instead of getting stuck on job A or job B, maybe the real question is, what kind of work environment do I actually need right now? Or even broader, what's really called for in my life at this moment?
Asking a bigger question first.
It can stop you getting boxed in by limited options and maybe open up more creative answers you hadn't even thought of.
Makes sense. And step 3, reflect.
Yeah.
Which, the source emphasized, is not the same as analyzing or just thinking about it.
Right. It's different. It's more like approaching the question you've defined with, open curiosity, a sense of space, letting your inner wisdom, maybe your gut feelings, surface without jumping to analyze them immediately.
So it takes patience.
Definitely. The answer might not pop up right away, but practicing this builds trust in your ability to find solutions that go beyond just pure logic.
Okay, so mindfulness helps calm the system, opens things up. But even then, there's often that deeper fear, right? The fear of choosing wrong and really regretting it later.
That fear is huge, and it often pushes people towards what psychologists call decision avoidance strategies. We looked at a meta-analysis on this.
So people actively avoid making a tough choice.
Sometimes, yeah, to try and minimize that potential regret down the road, often by setting things up so they can blame the outcome on something else, like, oh, it was the standard procedure or everyone else was doing it.
And did the study find that avoiding works? Does it reduce regret?
Well, it showed it can reduce regret afterwards, but the overall effect was kind of small, except for one specific strategy.
Which was?
Status quo preservation, sticking with what you're already doing.
Inertia.
Pretty much. People consistently reported less regret when they chose to do nothing or just maintain the current situation compared to when they made an active change that didn't work out.
That makes so much intuitive sense. If you change something and it goes wrong, it feels like your fault. If you do nothing and things slide, you can kind of tell yourself, well, it's out of my hands.
Exactly. Though there's a catch if you stuck with the status quo before and it turned out badly, choosing it again actually makes you feel more regret if it fails again, like you should have known better.
Right. Fool me once. And the sheer number of options we have these days seems to play into this fear too, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sources mention that having more alternatives often leads to more regret and fear.
Why is that?
Possibly because it increases your sense of responsibility and the uncertainty. With just 2 choices, maybe you feel okay. With 20. If things go sideways, you're left thinking about the 19 paths you didn't take. That what if gets amplified.
Okay, so stress messes with the brain, mindfulness calms the noise, fear of regret makes us stick with the familiar. But what about those really specific, sticky, stressful thoughts that loop in our heads? Like, if I pick option A, this terrible thing will happen.
Right? Those thoughts feel so real, so concrete. This is where a technique called the work, which one source detailed, can be incredibly powerful.
And it's not about making the decision.
No, that's key. It doesn't tell you what to choose. It's specifically designed to help you dissolve the stress and fear that those thoughts create around the decision, to untangle the emotional knots, basically.
Okay, how does it work?
The source gave a great real-life example. A client was agonizing, truly panicked about maybe buying a vacant lot across the street. The core stressful thought was, if someone else builds on this lot, it will be a disaster.
And that thought wasn't just a background worry.
No, it was ruining her present moment, causing panic attacks, making her constantly bug her husband, stopping her from enjoying the peace she actually had right now.
Wow, so what did she do?
She used the work, which involves asking 4 simple questions about that stressful thought, like, is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? How do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? And crucially, who would you be without that thought?
And what happened when she asked those questions?
She had this breakthrough. She realized the disaster she was dreading wasn't actually happening out there on the vacant lot yet. The disaster was happening inside her right now, purely because of her thinking and her anticipation of this potential future.
She was already living the bad outcome she imagined.
Precisely. She saw how that one thought made her anxious, irritable, unable to appreciate her life, how it affected her relationship. The immediate suffering wasn't the lot, it was the thought about the lot.
And I remember reading about the turnarounds too, like flipping the thought.
Yes, especially the turnaround. If my thinking builds that house, it will be a disaster. She recognized that was already her reality. Her own thinking was creating the disaster in her experience.
That's powerful. It really shifts the focus from trying to control the external world to looking at your internal reaction.
Exactly. It highlights that your peace often depends less on the outcome itself and more on how you relate to your own thoughts about that outcome. You might not control what happens, but you can change how you experience it by questioning the stressful stories you tell yourself.
Okay, so we've got tools for the stress, the fear, the thoughts. What about the actual process of choosing? We have our logical brain analyzing pros and cons, and then there's, that gut feeling.
Right. Intuition versus logic. Our sources really stressed finding a balance between these two. They're both incredibly valuable cognitive tools.
Intuition being that sort of immediate inner knowing. that gut feeling instinct.
Yeah, it operates fast, often below conscious awareness. It's holistic, taking in subtle cues, very powerful, but sometimes hard to explain or even trust.
And logic is the opposite. Systematic, rational, step-by-step, based on data, evidence, objective analysis.
Grounded, reliable, but it can be slow. And sometimes it misses the bigger picture, the stuff you can't easily quantify.
And relying only on one or the other usually isn't the best approach for complex decisions, right?
Definitely not. Pure logic can lead to that analysis paralysis we talked about or miss crucial human elements. Pure intuition, without checking against reality, can be, well, impulsive or just plain wrong.
So how do you integrate them?
It starts with self-awareness, learning to notice both your rational thoughts and your gut feelings without immediately dismissing one. It involves trusting your instincts, but also doing your homework, gathering the facts, logic. Using mindful reflection, like we discussed, can help you understand where a feeling is coming from. Is it fear or genuine insight?
So it's like using logic to build the structure, but intuition helps with the design inside.
That's a great way to put it. And learning from experience, seeing when relying more on one or the other worked well or didn't.
Okay. And then after the decision is made, dealing with whatever happens next. That often calls for another key skill, resilience.
Yeah, and resilience isn't just about bouncing back from huge disasters. It's really a learnable skill for adapting successfully to all of life's challenges, big and small, including the outcomes of our decisions.
So it's built day to day, not just in crises.
Exactly. It's built by facing everyday stresses and learning how to navigate the emotional ups and downs that come with them. It's about flexibility, being able to adjust when things don't go perfectly.
And being able to work through disappointment or emotional pain without getting completely derailed.
Right. It involves perseverance, but also cultivating what's called a growth mindset, that belief that you can actually improve your abilities, that setbacks aren't permanent failures.
And looking at the strategies for building resilience, a lot of them overlap with what we've already talked about for managing the decision stress itself.
They really do. Developing self-awareness is key again. Building self-regulation skills, using those stress reduction tools like mindfulness, exercise, reframing thoughts, maintaining a sense of optimism, even when things are tough.
Strengthening your connections too, right? Leaning on your support network.
Hugely important. And knowing your own strengths, what you're good at, what resources you have internally, all these things help you not just make better choices under pressure, but also handle the consequences, good or bad.
It really does all connect. The things that help you during the decision process are the same things that help you cope after.
So maybe we can quickly pull together some of those really practical day-to-day strategies again, just to recap how to tame that stress beast.
Okay. We definitely hit mindfulness and meditation, even just a few minutes of focusing on your breath or doing a quick body scan. That can make a real difference.
Regular exercise, absolutely. Such a powerful stress buster. And it doesn't have to be intense, right? Just find some movement you actually enjoy. Get those endorphins flowing.
Structure helps too. Trying to stick to some kind of routine, prioritizing what needs doing, setting achievable goals, and remembering to actually schedule breaks.
Yeah.
Don't just power through till you burn out.
And for the decision itself, sometimes a structured problem-solving approach helps cut through the fog. Define the problem clearly, gather your info, brainstorm options, weigh the pros and cons, make the call, and maybe plan to review it later.
Tuning into your emotions is big too. Just naming what you're feeling. Okay, I'm feeling anxious right now.
Yeah.
Without judgment. And that idea of cognitive reappraisal.
Yeah, just actively looking for other ways to see a situation. Is there a less negative interpretation, a different angle? And finding healthy ways to actually express those feelings, not bottle them up.
What about the constant information overload?
Good point. Maybe trying a digital diet? Limiting the endless scrolling, being selective about news sources, just consciously unplugging sometimes can lower the stress baseline significantly.
And leaning on your tribe, as you said. Reaching out. Talking it through with trusted friends, family, maybe even a therapist for an outside perspective. You don't have to carry it all alone.
And underpinning all of this really is basic self-care. Getting enough sleep seriously, lack of sleep just destroys good decision-making. Eating reasonably well, making time for relaxation, whatever that looks like for you, that's the foundation.
So bringing it all together. When you're facing that tough choice, navigating the stress seems to involve, well, understanding how stress physically affects you, using mindfulness to create some inner quiet.
facing that fear of regret head on, maybe questioning the stressful thoughts that spin around it,
Yeah.
learning to blend your rational analysis with your gut wisdom.
And building that overall resilience, that capacity to handle whatever outcome arrives.
Yeah, and none of this is like a magic wand. It's not about finding a formula for perfect decisions. These are skills. They're like muscles you build over time.
Every time you pause instead of reacting, every time you question a fearful thought, connect with your intuition, or reach out for support, you're strengthening that muscle for the next time. So here's a final thought to leave you with. What is true clarity and peace in decision-making doesn't actually come from finding the single, objectively perfect choice that guarantees a flawless outcome. What if instead it comes from cultivating the inner capacity to be at peace with the choice you make, provided you make it with awareness and intention, regardless of how things turn out externally? What if the right path is simply the one you choose consciously and learn from no matter what happens next?